no like pivotal moment that I remember I was like, oh, I want to do music because I've always done it. I started playing the violin at 3, you know, like there was no like big decision.
I've had a lot of musical background ever since I was like 5 or so. I started playing piano and keyboards and got a guitar when I was that age too. But I've always been very musically inclined.
My parents brainwashed me to play the fiddle. They kind of brought me, it was wonderful, they brought me to concerts, they introduced me to orchestras. I started going to orchestral concerts when I was really young, and oddly enough, when I was very young, I was taken by Mussorgsky and like very dark kind of Dvorak. Like I played in an orchestra that played Dvorak's New World Symphony, and I was completely smitten, and that was a huge turning point to wanting to be a musician.
My father is a professional classical pianist, and he teaches at Duke University. And my mother is a professional harpsichordist, and I leave classical out of that because she's actually specialized in contemporary harpsichord music and ran a competition for new harpsichord music for the last 30 years. And I always grew up in the kitchen where my mother's studio is right off the kitchen, hearing all sorts of amazing harpsichord music, and then in the living room where the grand piano is, hearing all sorts of amazing piano. And one of my first musical memories was my father writing a different piano piece for each kid. There's 3 of us. I have a twin sister and an older brother. And my piece was pretty cool, and I learned each hand pretty well, and then I tried to put them together, and I could not put them together for the life of me. And that's when I was like, okay, I guess I don't play the piano. But it wasn't an option in our household not to play an instrument. We had to choose an instrument. So I started out on the violin, and I was playing in orchestra, and I didn't feel very special because there's a lot of violinists, and I wanted to shine. So I remember my mother said one day, picking me up from elementary school, that she had a really special treat for me, and I thought it was superhero underwear. I was like, is it superhero underwear? She said, no, it's a cello. And she opened the trunk, and there was this like baggy brown sack that apparently held a cello, and I was so disappointed. And so for many years, I begrudgingly practiced my 15 minutes a day that was required, and it was torturous.
When I guess it must have been summer going into my 8th grade, I was at a music camp, and I like found this video, and it was of these, it's like a Polish group singing a traditional Polish folk song, and that started to get me really interested in folk music, which is something that I do a lot now.
I just sort of struggled along. But then I went to, talk about history, I went to a music camp called Rocky Ridge in Colorado, I think Steamboat Springs, Colorado. And that's where my father went as a young pianist to camp. And it was there that I saw a girl, a beautiful blonde girl, just a few years older than me, playing the Haydn C Major Concerto. And I was so amazed by what she could do. And I saw all these kids who were better than me who were practicing. And I said, oh, well, that's what I could do if I practiced? So I started practicing for 1 hour every day, right when I got back from camp. And then that turned into 2 hours. And I went back to Rocky Ridge the next year, and everyone, their jaws hit the floor. Everyone couldn't believe how much I'd improved in that year. And then I made it a goal. I wanted to learn the Haydn C Major Cello Concerto. And I went to my cello teacher, and she said, no way, you're not ready. It's going to take a while. And so I said, okay, I've got a while. And so I started practicing 2 hours every day, religiously. And I got to the point in my beginning of my junior year, where she said, this is Stephanie Weil, this amazing cello teacher. She said, you're ready. You can start learning the Haydn C Major Concerto. And I had been playing with the Duke University String School Orchestra, and the director allowed me to play the first movement with the orchestra. So I knew that I was going to get to play a concerto solo with the orchestra, and I practiced for at least 9 months. That entire season, I was practicing this one movement of one concerto. And we got to perform it one time. And when I remember I didn't want a tuxedo, I didn't want to feel constricted, so I got this billowy purple silk shirt. And I got up there in Baldwin Auditorium at Duke University and played this concerto. And I think the most memorable moment of that concerto for me was that I had made up the cadenza, because I was listening to all these different recordings and I realized that all the cadenzas were a little different. And so I asked my cello teacher, could I make up my own cadenza? She said, of course. In fact, they used to be improvised. They used to be the musician in the moment getting inspired and thinking, well, what if I try something new? And I said, I'm not ready for improvisation, but I will make one up. And all these concerto solos end with, let's see, like a trill going to the end. And I was like, well, why do they all have to end with a trill? And so I wanted to manipulate the audience. So I went and came in for the trill and then did a fake out up to a huge passage that went all the way down the cello. And I have the recording still, and there's audible gasps that you can hear on the recording of the audience being surprised at the fake out. I guess I was theatrical even then, I guess. And that stuck with me as like theater and drama, meeting music and power of music.
A while ago at this camp, I think it was three years ago, and one of my buddies, he played guitar and he was playing Back in Black by AC/DC and other songs, the rock genre, and I just was totally inspired and was like, I want to do that, and picked up a little guitar and went online and did it.
My parents had gotten Maggie a guitar, my older sister Maggie, a guitar for Christmas. And it was, I think, 1964 when the Beatles, everybody wanted to play guitar because the Beatles. And so, but we didn't have any musical instruction. There was no music lessons or anything, it was just kind of like, here's this guitar. And I just want to get something to show you. There was a TV show on PBS that was, so Maggie got the guitar at Christmas, and then in January there was a TV show about how to play the guitar. And this is the book. You sent away for the book, and it was this woman, Laura Weber, who would teach you a song a week. So if you look in here, now I was probably, let's see, 11 maybe? I was probably 11. I think I was 11 when this happened. So, it was all beginning instruction, and there would be a song, the chords, and a strum. So we had the one guitar, and my sister Maggie and my mother and I can't remember whether Suzy, who is younger, she's 3 years younger than I am, I don't remember whether she did this, but I do remember my mother and Maggie and I with the one guitar passing it, my turn to play the chord, your turn to play the chord. And that's how I learned how to play the guitar.
I think when I first got started playing music, my dad had suggested it, and I started actually rather late. I was in high school when I started, and I really enjoyed it and got started. And then I played a little bit through college, but I haven't been playing over the years very much. But I actually just started to pick it up over the last couple of years, and it's really become a significant part of my life, something that I think a lot about and I spend a lot of times doing and really enjoy.
I probably started about when I was in 8th or 9th grade. The kid down the street had a guitar and he was like showing me whatever. I just remember him putting on the Journey record, Any Way You Want It, and he's like playing along with it, and I thought that was pretty cool. So I eventually got a guitar, and then I learned a handful of stuff. And I played on and off through high school, and then I probably quit for a long, long time, and then I think I needed something to do after I finished my graduate degree, and I had some alternate thing to look at and focus on and do. So I found guitar again.
I played the piano until I was about 5, and then I said I was not wanting to play the piano anymore, and my parents really said, okay. But up until I was 5, I had gotten pretty good with some Scott Joplin, and so that was a lot of fun. And it hasn't been. We would sing, my sisters and I would sing, doing dishes and all that. We joked about maybe being the Stookey sisters when we grew up or something. I have twin sisters. But it wasn't until about 2 years ago that I picked up an instrument again. So I've just started to learn guitar, which is terrific. Love it, love it. You can teach an old dog new tricks, but it is very hard.
Initially, I am self-taught. It was just sort of like out in the woods, entertain yourself kind of thing. And you just want more and more, and you start understanding that one voice, adding another voice, oh, these link up to be chords, and then chords in this sequence become this mood, and then this sequence connected to other sequences can either be verse, chorus, bridge, or it can be just, kind of a theatrical lifting you to this place so that you feel like you've been on a journey with somebody. I think that is fascinating, and so that made me want to go and learn more.
And then I had this interesting moment in my life because I went to Kinhaven, which is a musical summer camp in Vermont. Here I am. And it was amazing, and I practiced 4 hours a day, 5 hours a day, and I was with kids who were going to be going to Juilliard and having professions in music. And I got lonely. 4 hours by yourself every day is a really long time. And I also felt this feeling of, I knew that I was good enough to have a career in music, but I knew I wasn't going to be a concerto soloist renowned the world over. And I didn't want to just be in the orchestra. I felt like I would just blend in. So I had also seen my classical music parents practice for months and months, maybe 6 months sometimes, for one recital. And they'd not beg, but they'd ask people to come, and they were lucky to have a 3/4 full house, and they'd play once and that was it. And that would sound really depressing to me. And I was also interested in theater at the time. And you do a musical and you rehearse it for 2-3 weeks, and then you'd perform it for 4 weeks, and people would come and you'd have full houses. So I found I went to another summer camp called Perry Mansfield Performing Arts Summer Camp, and that's when I first started doing musical theater seriously. And I found that I was able to combine my love of storytelling with my love of movement and my love of music. And that's where I went on this musical theater track, and I left my cello behind. It was very sad, actually. I went to the Hart School of Music, which has a wonderful conservatory program for music, but I was there for musical theater, and I put my cello in my closet, and I didn't play for the entire time until my senior year, when they discovered that I played the cello and started using me in certain shows. Then I get to New York, and my cello became a secret weapon for me. People were like, oh, you play the cello, can you play, be a Kit Kat boy in Cabaret, or could you memorize this cello score and play A Man of No Importance in Brooklyn? And I also interned on the show once on Broadway, which has actor-musicians. So my cello was coming in handy. I played, Horatio in Hamlet played the cello. I directed a play by Sarah Rule called Eurydice, and I composed a cello score for it. So I've reunited with Limon. I call him Limon Cello. Yeah, very clever. And we've had a large journey together.